Welcome to the Heritage Sports Podcast. We're breaking down the Deion Sanders, Shannon Sharpe Club Shay Shay interview. Look, folks, the interview's an hour plus, so if you just want a summary, that's what I'm here for. What I love most about the interview are the candid shots between them, between Shannon and Deion, starting the interview and ending the interview, all right? Starting the interview, which made me title the video this, Will Deion make the full 5 years at Colorado? I want him to. I like Coach Prime. I love what he's done as a player to change the game. I love what he's done as an HBCU head coach and now as a Power 5 head coach. The candid shots starts with Shannon Sharpe walking into the facility, seeing Coach Prime in a physical therapy basically section. And Coach Prime was getting, his legs serviced by a physical therapist, a doctor, someone of that nature. If you don't know, in the last 2 years, he developed blood clots, and those blood clots led to complications with his toes, and those toes had to be amputated. He put that on well covered online. The other things that had to happen was his calves, his leg on I believe his left leg had to be operated on. They took skin grafts to cover his foot, his toe. So what he explained on the program is that he has to have physical therapy at least 2-3 times a day, where they have to get his blood circulating in that leg. He's also on blood thinners and pain medication. So the reason why I bring this up, this is all stuff he said. He said when it first happened, he was up to 30-something pills a day, and now he's down to 7 pills a day. That's concerning. I mean, it is what it is. Everybody has something going on. He needs accommodations, and he's doing his job and able to do his job very, very well. But he went on to say that in like long games, like say third quarter or something like that, he starts the game well. He can stand up, but about a third quarter, his circulation is starting to build up. It's not good, and he really starts limping. And you can see that in some of the videos he posts. He's not as mobile. So my overall concern is, one, he talked about in some of his other videos, the facilities are so big he has to walk around a lot, but he has a great staff that'll be able to service him. But he says that's not going away. It doesn't matter how much physical therapy he does. This is his life going forward. So I'm kind of concerned about the 5 years. That's just a long time to have to do that and be up and be moving and do all of those things. I don't know if he might get tired of it, which I can understand. I hope not, but that's just something to think about, over the next few years. Shedeur graduates and goes to the NFL. Shilo graduates, goes to the NFL. Will he want to keep doing it? So we'll see. All right, the next thing that they talked about was the Celebration Bowl. And he was, he's still disappointed about it, but Deion was basically saying what I said in our Celebration Bowl recap. It was the defensive lapses. They were the number one defense in the SWAC coming into the Celebration Bowl, and they just had so many lapses. And he was talking about they just got too lackadaisical at the end. And what was I saying in the Celebration Bowl? A lot of the defensive backfield was not locked in. I didn't see it. When I'm watching the game live, I played college ball. You could see the DBs were not locked in. It wasn't them competing for the ball and the receiver just got the ball from them and they just made a great play. A lot of it was they weren't covered the right way. They just seemed to not be focused on the game. He then just went on to shout out HBCUs and giving him that opportunity, especially at Jackson State. He went on to detail that Jackson State recruited him, but that wasn't the only program that recruited him. He had the opportunity, and he didn't name any names. I wish he would have, but basically Power 5 programs had given indications that we would like to interview you and give you an opportunity if the interview goes well. But he said there was something about Jackson and something about the athletic director, and I think that carried through the Club Shay Shay interview. He puts a lot of stock into the athletic director. He has to be able to like that person, be on the same page on that person, and he just, to me, did not find it until he met the Jackson State athletic director. The athletic director there took a lot of care into his family, knew his family, and that rang true when he started describing the Colorado athletic director. All right, let's move on to what the big issue was. The black community cry on both sides of it, whether they were happy that Deion went to Colorado or basically saying, no, you sold out, you sold us a bag of goods, you're a con artist, you're a liar. And he just broke it down. Deion said, man, look, people are hurt. And I have seen it. I've seen it online, people that are just upset and hurt, and you could just tell they're hurt. They're biased. They're like, oh, why would you do this? Why would you sell us out? Why this, why that? And he just broke it down. He said, look, I get that people are hurt, and that's what people really felt. And they just let it all out. But when you do that, he says he listens to it, and it guides him for the future, because when you're hurt, you got to make sure you're saying the things, not only how you felt, but be fair and think everything else. If you want to criticize, the praise has to be as high as the criticism. And that's understandable. I can get that. He basically said that people forgot what he accomplished, what the teams were able to accomplish, and the exposure that he was able to bring. That wasn't brought up out of the critics' mouths most of the time. And he gave some inside information that a lot of people didn't know. He was talking about the Jackson State athletic director. The athletic director said, look, they knew from the very beginning. We know from the grapevine that you've interviewed with different programs, and we understand this would be your first head coaching job, but please give us 2 years. We understand that you may not want to end your coaching career in Jackson. That was up front. Deion didn't even have to say that. They told that to him. They said, hey, can you please give us 2 years? And he ended up staying 3 years. And I get that after 2 years, he actually was up for the TCU job, the team that's in the college football playoffs. I don't know if he was the coach, whether the same thing would have happened. I don't think he would have let Max Duggan start. He might have let Shedeur start. I don't know if that would have been a national championship team is all I'm getting at. But he was in the mix for that job. Everyone knew that. And he went to Sonny Dykes, who's a very, very accomplished coach. He used to coach at Louisiana Tech, UCal Berkeley, and he's on a doorstep that could win a national championship. And we covered that in another video. I don't think TCU is going to win, but it's worth noting. Anyway, that was a known thing. After 2 years, he had interviewed for the TCU job. That's been reported. He didn't get the job. They chose and went with Sonny Dykes. And he ended up staying an extra year, getting another SWAC championship, and then getting on the same page as the athletic director for Colorado. And he sent a great message to the critics. He's like, I know you're hurt. I know you may be biased, but you got to remember your dream is not exactly my dream. And whatever your dream is, don't stop dreaming. Because a lot of the critics would just criticize and say, now what is Jackson going to do? Well, now you need to figure out what Jackson's going to do. And also that cut a check, because a lot of individuals that he just went off the statistics. He didn't say anybody specific. He was saying the critics, I can guarantee you, are not cutting a check back to Jackson State or HBCUs. And Shannon Sharpe challenged me. He's like, basically, how do you know that? He said 7% of HBCU alums give back. 7%. And by the way, I'm one of those. I'm in that 7%. And he says, so over 90% of people that are alums of the HBCUs are not giving back, but yet they're online criticizing and attacking and doing all these other things. And while he's all in, and he said, my whole family was in Jackson. They ain't never lived in Jackson before. All of them people lived in Texas or Florida. He said both his sons were on campus. His daughter was on campus. His mama and his aunts moved. He said even his dog moved in Jackson for 3 years. His fiance was back and forth. So he's all in. What does that say about everybody else? And not only was he giving his money to the university, giving back for whatever the cause may be, he was saying that I've not only say that with words, please come here, look at the exposure we're getting. I'm actually cutting the check. Look at all these things we're doing. And as soon as he says, you know what, my dream doesn't stop here, it's going to go somewhere else, it's, well, how are we supposed to go on from here? So he said for the tangible things that Jackson State can do next steps, Shedeur, he mentioned, was the difference in a lot of the games. And not so much him, his son himself. He was like a quarterback that can throw. Jackson State can do so much for themselves in the next year or the years coming if they can get a quarterback that can throw. He said, you see it. If you run the ball, that's great. You run the ball first through third down. Sooner or later, you're going to have to throw the ball. And if you get down, you're not going to be able to come back. With a quarterback that can throw the ball, you can be up 14, you could be up 17, whatever the case may be. If that person can still spin the ball, that's what he's basically saying, throw the ball competently down the field, you're going to be able to win games. So that's the biggest thing he said Jackson State can do. He said the city of Jackson definitely needs to figure out the water crisis. That could be a separate video, but that's a big thing, and he understands that's been years in the making. He also talked about crime and how, safety can affect, just being there, and it affects recruiting, especially when you're talking to parents. So he says those are the tangible things Jackson as a city as a whole can do to continue to push Jackson State University forward. Then he talked about why he chose Colorado. And again, he leaned on the athletic director specifically. He's like, the money's great and all that. I get it. That's fine. Bigger facilities, all that. But he has to be comfortable with the athletic director. And that's what ended up happening. The athletic director, he felt, had a connection with him. And he decided this was the right time to move after 3 years of being Jackson State's head coach. He also said Shannon started to get on him on his failures, and he says Shannon asked him about Prime Prep and its failures, which is well known in the DFW area. He said that's the best thing that happened to me. And then he took a pause and he said, failure is the best thing that happened to me. It allowed me to refocus. It allowed me to know the people that are connected to me and understand the gravity of how his name being attached to something, even if he has nothing to do with the activity, can affect people at a whole. So he knew Prime Prep was for the kids, but the people that it was attached, the business partners, it was about the business. And he said that was the worst mistake, but also a best thing for his future. And I guess that seeped into the athletic director conversation we're talking about. He's like, he has to know that he can be comfortable with the person. And it's not about just the business. It's about the kids. Shannon asked him about his sons, and he basically said what I've been saying about Shilo. He said Shilo can go pro, but he needs to focus. He's all over the place, and he was talking about in general. And I don't know about this season. The season seemed to be kind of up and down for him. But in the championship game, he just didn't look locked in when he played. So he says he has the ability to go pro and play in the NFL, and I think that was very, very telling. And he started talking about Shedeur, and it was just a total flip. He just said, man, Shedeur's got it. He has that Hall of Fame work ethic. And he was basically saying that he has the same work ethic that Shannon Sharpe had, that he had, that you just want to get to the next level. And, again, I've been very vocal on this channel on why these conversations are had and why these moves are being made. He reiterated, Shedeur has never, ever had games without his dad. His dad has always been his coach or offensive coordinator. And here we are in Colorado. And it's something that he sees in Shedeur. Like, he completely changed in his mannerism when he started talking about Shedeur. He's like, I could tell he wants it. I could tell he wakes up, he wants it, he wants better, and he wants better to be in the league and be really, 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 really good in the league. Something I thought was interesting. He said he doesn't believe in captains. So I don't think if you're a football player in Colorado, you're gonna be expecting a C on your chest. I don't think that's gonna happen. He also talked about the exposure and that he's going to continue to leverage social media there. They definitely did that at Jackson State. I think they did a unbelievable blueprint on how to leverage your content, especially if the program doesn't have that much money, especially like its competitors or FBS schools, how you can leverage the social media reach and get some monetization back from it. Remember, this is all free content that can be monetized. You kids just going to the field and just hanging around and going over plays, or coaches, talking to them about life. If you're able to capture that without being intrusive, that could be packaged and sold. And I think they've put on a masterclass on how to start a media arm, and it's gonna just expand in Colorado. And he also talked about bringing in Brittany Renner. What he didn't mention is what I found out. Brittany Renner, he brought in Brittany Renner to speak to his football players at Jackson State. What he didn't mention, I found out Jackson State, she actually went there and she's an alum, and she's a very, very famous social media influencer, very beautiful. And he quote unquote said if he was in those seats as the kids, he would have been able to save $15 million based on his relationships with women throughout the years. And I'm not saying who he was referring to, but he's saying if Brittany Renner would have gave him game early on like that, he could have saved $15 million. And the biggest thing is he got from Brittany is women are sought after, and that's not breaking news. But when they select someone, you got to understand women study the person they're going against, especially if they're high going against. Study the person they may want to pursue, especially if the person's a high profile kind of athlete or entertainer or just high profile person. If they have all these people in their inbox, they're going to choose one, two, whatever, find out everything about them, and then it's not you run a game on them, they're running a game on you, thinking, it's a chase when it's actually the other way around. And he said that lesson alone could have saved him $15 million. But I thought it was interesting, to say the least. Last thing they talked about, he said, that's never been done before. An HBCU head coach getting hired to be a Power 5, to a Power 5 conference. I really sincerely hope it's not the last time. They had the North Carolina Central coach joking earlier that he would take the Colorado job too, and now it's not foreign. And what I love about that is it opens the portal for it to be that it could happen again. And there's so many qualified coaches in every parts of this country that don't get the opportunity, and maybe they can get more opportunities based on this currently. Believing in someone that can run a program and get it to the next level. Last thing they talked about, Shannon, reiterate he was disappointed in all the negative talk around Deion's departure. He just was like, bro, like, so many people had criticism out of their mouth first when they didn't focus on the things that you did do. And I completely and wholeheartedly agree. I get the hurt part of it, as far as they wanted Prime to stay there and turn the HBCU and the university itself into just this powerhouse. But that's not always the case. That's not always going to happen. And the man got a fantastic opportunity. They were walking around the field with the mountains in the back, and it was just a beautiful scenery, whether it just being candid with each other and saying how far they had come. And every step is going to prepare you for the next one. And I thought that was so impactful, and reminded people your dream doesn't have to stop with where you are. You can continue to go forward wherever you're living. I don't care where it is. whether you're in Mississippi, whether you're in Florida, whether you're in New York, whether you're in Arizona, whether you're in Washington State or Washington D.C., you can have another step, and people should be clapping for you. The everything that you feel is in front of you is, and all you have to do is take that step. And don't be afraid to take that step. And don't worry about what others got to say, because others should be happy for you. Anyway, I really love the interview. So I did this recap just in case you didn't have the time to watch the full hour plus interview. But this was a really, really great interview. Maybe if you do have time, you can watch it. But this is just a summary. Until next time, Heritage Sports Podcast.